So this lesson is on the integration power rule. And the lesson goal is to explain the meaning of integration and outline any rules that must be followed and use these skills to integrate derivatives. So integration, it is defined as finding the antiderivative of a derivative. So it is the opposite of finding a derivative of a function. The general notation. So we know the power rule is d divided by dx times x to the n equals n times x to n to the minus 1. So the integration for power rule is the exact opposite. And it is the integral of x to the n times dx is equal to x to the n plus 1 divided by n plus 1, whereby n of the power rule does not equal n of integration for the power rule. First rule is to factor the coefficient of each integral. The second is you have to recognize that the integrals have powers and the variables are always raised to the 0. Number 3 is that a derivative of constant needs to be added after integration, because when you derivative of a constant, it turns to 0, so you have to add it to reverse the process. Number 4 is that if given a point or any additional information, the constant can be found. Our first example is the integral of 5x to the 4 d of x. So our first step is to factor the coefficient of each integral. So in this case, we only have one integral. So we are going to factor out the 5. And we are going to apply the integration for power rule, which is going to equal 5 times x to the 4 plus 1, which is 5, over 5. And then adding c, because after integrating, there needs to be a constant, because it's the reverse process of a derivative. Then we can do some simplification, and then do appropriate therefore statement. So the next example is the integral of 4x plus 3. So this time we have two integrals. So the first step is to always factor out, and then factor out the 3, and recognize that we can have an x to the 0 because that's 1. Then we can find that 4 times x to the 1 plus 1 is 2 over 2, which is going to be plus. Then we know that 3x to the 1 over 1 plus c. After simplifying, we get an answer 2x squared plus 3x plus c. And if we had a point or any additional information, we could actually solve for c. So the third example may look like product rule, but you can actually use power rule because they're both to the exponent 1. So the first thing we have to do is distribute. Then we're going to factor out each integral. Then we find that 6 plus 1 is x to the 3 over 3 minus 13 of x to the 2 over 2 minus 5x over 1. And then after some simplification, we get 2x cubed minus 13 over 2x squared minus 5x. And then we are adding the c.